Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're all well this cold December day, and thank you for joining our webinar. This session is primarily aimed at those dealing with construction handover, where we'll be discussing some of the challenges with handover today, what we hear from contractors, and how we've helped some of our customers with their pain points. We'll also be sharing our top 10 tips for successful handover management. My name is Maria Hudson. I'll be your moderator for today, and I am the CMO at Zootech. I am pleased to be joined by Cameron Jacobson, Head of Business Development at Zootech, Josh Franks, part of our Senior Handover Sales team, and Carolina Boda, Head of our Handover or Customer Operations, who will all be talking through some of the real-life scenarios, typical pain points and challenges, and how these are being overcome with tips to making handover more seamless. We will wrap the session up with some questions, but we want to keep this webinar as interactive as possible. So if you have questions throughout the session, please do ask them and we'll address them as we go. You can do this by using the chat board or Q&A tool at the bottom right hand of the screen. There will be polls throughout the session as well. So we would like to hear your insight. This will help us understand more about your needs and how we can better support you in the future. And lastly, this session will be recorded so that we can distribute the recording afterwards. However, before we get into the crux of the session today, I wanted to share a little bit more about Zootech. I'm sure there are many of you on the call that know us already, but we've been providing O&M creation, digital handover and construction and property tech solutions to our customers, primarily in the UK and Ireland for well over 25 years. Our business started out with supporting the delivery of O&M and building manuals. However, to build and grow the business over the years, we've acquired complementary companies such as CreateMaster, who again, I guess many of you know. And this enables us to really provide best-in-class software and solutions across the REBA stages of the building lifecycle. We're number one O&M provider in the UK and Ireland today, supporting streamlined trade management, dashboard analytics and reporting, structured data in one platform, and providing a comprehensive digital data set to our customers. Today, we have over 500 customers. We processed 35 million documents and digitized over 13,000 buildings. I'm working with some of the biggest and smallest contractors. So you can see some of our customers on the slide here. When we've been talking to our customers, we've also been hearing some similar things time and time again. And I won't labour on this slide too much because Cam, Carolina and Josh will be talking about some of this today. But we continue to hear things like we still lack proper process and there is no clear ownership. Our suppliers don't get what they need when we deliver. We're still using Excel to manage access. We're repeatedly having dissatisfied clients because of delayed deliverables and things aren't up to scratch. And we regularly have aftercare issues. However, things are changing. There are probably a few of us on here that remember the days of handing over a box of folders and USBs. I'm sure, Carolina, you still remember those days and still have to deal with them sometimes. But those days are essentially gone. With digitization and AI, platforms are evolving. And with this evolution, expectations are evolving and changing too. There is no need to use Excel or a CDE that isn't necessarily set up for purpose when there are specialists and solutions out there that can provide you with a complete and better quality data and can support compliance, particularly around safety critical information. So on that note, I'm going to open our first poll. So if you click on the poll tab in the bottom right hand of your screen, you should see it live. And it'd be great to see your answers. So do select all that may apply to you. And the question is, what are your greatest challenges with handover today? So just looking at some of the answers, looks like inconsistent and missing documentation is one of the biggest challenges that's coming through, as well as still seeing unreliable manual processes, understanding what's required from suppliers and overstretched teams. So it seems like there's still a number of challenges that we're all experiencing, even in today's kind of digitized world. So on that note, I'm going to open up to the team, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of the scenarios that we have come across, some of the pains that we hear directly, and what work we have done to try and help overcome this with our customers. So Josh, I'm going to start with you, and talking a bit more about some of the work we've been doing with Myco. So what are the challenges and pains that did Myco experience before we started working with them, and can you identify some of the root causes of that, Josh?
Yeah. So Myco relied on traditional paper-heavy workflows for their O&M handovers. This made it quite difficult to provide concise, structured information when requested by external stakeholders, which ultimately put strain on the project team from all that manual coordination and collation and a lack of centralised data.
Great. And did Myco come to us for help, and how did we deal with their request?
Yeah, I mean, at the time they were using a separate O&M vendor that offered more of a self-delivered model as opposed to Zutec's fully managed service. We used a live project as a proof of concept to demonstrate how Zutec can offer the project team with, handling document collation, subcontractor engagement, data verification, and structured uploads.
And Carolina, maybe this one's for you. Can you tell us a bit more about the solution then that was implemented once they came to us?
So what we did, we incorporated our Zutec digital handover solution, basically the way how the platform is structured and the templates that we use. We use the Zutec structure not only to process documentation, but also to collect it in a timely manner and to allow our customers, our clients, and in this case, Myco, to review the information and find it easily. We engaged with the supply chain and brought consistency to the process. That means that we were chasing in the right way. We were using the same templates. So we educated the supply chain. And basically, the platform allowed Myco to find information easily. We provided visibility on what we were collecting, what we didn't collect, and they could step in and support us if that was needed.
Brilliant. Back to you, Josh. Is this across all their projects? Have they completed any yet?
Yeah, it was implemented and rolled out across all 5 projects that were instructed over the last sort of 12 months or so, as well as older legacy projects that were migrated to Zutec that were previously sat elsewhere. It's a recent relationship, sort of circa 12 months. However, we're on track to deliver sort of all projects in line with their construction program, with handover dates starting later this month.
Brilliant. And Carolina, maybe you can tell us a bit more about any unexpected challenges during delivery and how we dealt with them.
One of the main challenges is always to collect documentation on time. So, and there are different reasons associated to this delay. It could be changes on site. It could be maybe packing that documentation on site that had left, or maybe where like mid of the process reviewing trade contractors didn't know where they could continue either providing or addressing any comments. But what is always key is to make sure that there is a continued process. And that's what we did as well with Myco. So we have our support teams, what we did. We have people chasing, and we have a centralized system back of the house where we keep record of what has been chased, what has been requested to the client, what has been requested in addition to the supply chain. So we have all that information in one place that if Myco says, where are we in the process or where we were in the process, we quickly answer those questions.
Brilliant. And what have the results been so far, Carolina?
Well, engaged clients and engaged supply chain. So what we have, and by experience, this is an easy process when everybody knows what they need to provide and when they need to provide it. So what allows the trade contractors here to have that level of engagement is that we always use the same templates. So they understand our templates, they understand what information we require at the back of those templates as well, and they provide it when we need it. Few of these trade contractors, as they are already familiarized with the process, they have the template already pre-populated, so they make it project specific and they send it to us. And most of the time, we already have manufacturing literature that they use across projects. So everything is very quickly and easy to complete.
Brilliant. That's really insightful. Thank you, Josh and Carolina. So now over to you, Cam. Could you tell us a bit more about some of the complexities that GMI construction had before coming to us?
Yeah, thanks, Maria. And you'll probably notice there's going to be quite a few crossovers with challenges that sort of resonate with contractors. So GMI specifically relied heavily on manually processing information. They did introduce another provider to collate the information, but found themselves doing a lot of the legwork themselves, chasing out information, and even creating an Excel tracker to make sure that they've received the correct information. This created a huge amount of admin burden on the projects teams, chasing out the subcontractors for information, and also just building out their own internal checklists for what they're expecting to receive in packages, so they understand what they've received against what they're expected to see at PC.
Brilliant. And can you talk a little bit more about what convinced them to come to Zootech and the right solution they chose to overcome some of these complexities?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's always a difficult one when a contractor's previously had a bad experience with a provider, as it's easy to just assume outsourcing just isn't for them. But what really helped GMI was that Zootech was the correct, what basically helped them understand that Zootech was the correct solution for themselves was the fact that 85% of our business is repeat business from contractors we worked with previously. From that, we're currently working with over 150 digital handover customers, and we've been in the industry for over 2 decades, completing well over 5,000 projects. So it's really put Zootech as a market leader within this space. Given GMI's previous experience, this was the reassurance that was required to trust us to outsource their projects and become a preferred option. In-house delivery as well previously used to lead to extended workloads. So for GMI, there was no other option but look to outsource.
And can you delve a bit deeper into the solution itself, Cam?
Yeah, so the solution for GMI was to take away the admin burden across the project team and ensure they've got complete compliant information at PC. Given our experience in handover information throughout the years, we built out our own package expectation list, which has been built to understand what information we need to receive across all the different trades, along with cross-referencing the ERs from the client with our team, then chase the information out from the trades in line with the project program to ensure that trades are on site and engaged. GMI could then track what information has been received against what they're expected to receive through our cloud-based platform, or by receiving our fortnightly updates via PDF on email.
Great, thank you, Cam. And Carolina, given you're our delivery expert, how did our solution improve the situation compared to the baseline that they had?
So let's break down this into the main issues that GMI had. So delays, Cameron mentioned. So early involvement is key for us. So what we do when we start chasing, we chase for information that we know is going to be ready for the trade contractors to provide. So by doing this, we eliminate immediately delays on collecting documentation that maybe trade contractors had, but they already left the site, or trade contractors have, but they are too busy delivering the project itself in the construction stage. And what we do is we start chasing early to eliminate that kind of pain that they have on site. Maybe they don't want to spend too much time thinking about O&M documentation when they have lots of things to do on site. So we take that kind of constraint for the teams. Missing documentation, and obviously having so many people involved in collecting, other people delivering in different folders, it could be quite messy on site when it's done by different people. What we did here, we collected the documentation that it was only relevant to what was needed in the project. No construction information, only information relevant to the final user, baked, as Cameron said, in our package expectation list. And this allows also time for our clients to focus on what is really important, which is reviewing the content of the document. So we do all the basic checks, formatting, making sure that is relevant, but the client also can focus on what is in that O&M information. And another problem that we have here in GMI was the lack of structure. So our platform is aligns with all the CDM requirements. So we have construction, design, management information, all structured in a way that reviewers can find it easily. And they can give final approval, or let us know if there are any comments on missing documentation that we need to request from trade contractors.
Okay. And you talk about structure there. I mean, can you delve a bit deeper into the structured framework and templates and why this streamlines handover?
So our structure framework is based on the project life cycle itself. So we have design documentation, construction, and any main contractor building or management information. This makes the process to collect information more effective, essentially. Our templates also are a reflection of how works are getting done on site. So we start with design information, where we have all documentation from architect, structural, etc. Then we have a scope of works. Then we have equipment information. Then we have operation, maintenance, and we finalize with as-built and commissioning certificates. What we do, we educate the supply chain to start providing that information as it becomes available, and not everything at the end at once. And then that is the way how our structure allows quick progress for the completion of the handover documentation.
Great. Great, thank you all. So before we move on to some additional scenarios, we do have another poll. And the question now is, how often do handover issues lead to post-completion callbacks or disputes? So you can see the poll question in the tab in the right-hand corner again. If everyone is happy to submit a vote on their experience on post-completion callbacks and disputes, that would be great. And we're getting quite a few responses in now. So actually, most of you, actually, nearly half are saying on most projects that you experience some of this. Some of you say on almost every project, nearly 30%. And then another 30% occasionally. So it does appear that on most projects there are callbacks and aftercare issues. So this is interesting, and it just shows we're probably all having the same challenges day in, day out in this area. So going back to some of our scenarios, I'm going to come back to you, Josh, and I think we're going to talk a little bit about using some of the more traditional methods of digitization and process with Wilmot Dixon, talking about, they used Excel as a way of working. And can you tell us a little bit, why they were still using Excel before working with Zootech? Hi, Josh, I think you're on mute, sorry.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, there's 2 or 3 reasons that probably resonate with a lot of contractors. I mean, most stakeholders on a project, so contractors, subcontractors, consultants, clients, are already familiar with Excel and are comfortable using it. So there's no need for specialized training or software license. Ideal for smaller projects on tighter deadlines, as it's quick and easy to set up. And then probably lastly, Excel is widely available and often included on standard Office software packages. So there's low or little or even no cost involved.
What made them decide to change when they had a kind of process that seemed like it was working, really?
Excel becomes quite cumbersome for larger projects with complex asset data, making it difficult to scale. Limited collaboration. So it's harder to manage real-time updates. And there's risk, right? Risk of missing mandatory fields or standards. There's no built-in compliance checks. So this increases the chance of any gaps of information when handed over to the client.
And why do you think they selected Zootech to help change their process?
Efficiency probably being one. Zootech collate and check O&M manuals for completeness rather than the contractors' traditional methods of manual chasing via Excel or PDF. This speeds up the handover process and in turn provides overall client satisfaction. And then probably lastly, secondly, data quality and asset management. Zootech's final output is structured data. We spoke about that before with Carol. This helps support the lifecycle management and facility maintenance, adding real long-term value for the Wilmot Dixon clients.
Brilliant. And Carolina, given that you worked closely with Wilmot, can you share some of the key benefits they experienced since changing their process?
I would say one of the main benefits is saving time. So updating spreadsheets is something that they have to do. They had to do weekly, if not daily. We internally take that pain away. What we do, we update any information that we need in our system, and in real time, we generate progress reports, and also they can see all progress on collecting that documentation on Zootech. It's just a click, really. They don't need to go and update cell by cell, which also create a clash in terms of responsibilities. Who is updating the spreadsheet? Sometimes we have requirements in the past where we were receiving these massive spreadsheets, and we didn't even know what cell we had to update. Now we know clearly what the role, what responsibility is when it comes to reporting, what they need to see by status, by provider, by document type. So it allows getting things done a lot quicker. Obviously, transparency and full visibility is another of the main benefits. And as I said, the spreadsheets can cause lots of confusion. So it is always to have a different approach, something in the dashboard that is quicker and is more transparent in the sense that they can find what they need quickly.
And we've mentioned dashboards and transparency a few times now, and it seems to be a key feature actually that our customers do like. So can you tell us a bit more about what the solution brings and how the dashboard kind of brings that transparency and visibility and that overarching view for our customers?
Something that is good about dashboards is the first thing that is user-friendly. You don't need to have a full background in construction and project management to understand our dashboards. As it follows the design construction management process, you can find information easily. You can navigate it a lot quicker. You can find information by trade contractor. We have the option, you will see later in the demo, but you can find information by who is responsible to provide that information, by status, if our clients need anything that is pending for review, or even if there is a placeholder for, let's say, a drawing that has not been received and we need to check for, the client can see what is missing exactly in greater detail. And once the project has been completed, end users can also find documentation that maybe was not available when handover happened. That happens a lot. So they can go and see by status what is missing and perhaps request or provide that information to us, and then we can update it if that's part of our service. So that's kind of few of the benefits.
Yeah, it sounds like a real bonus having that piece. So throwing it back to you, Cam. So with this contractor that we're moving on to now, tell us a bit more about the situation and the challenges they were facing before working with Zootech.
Yeah, so a contractor we're working with has been going through a high period of growth over the last 2 years. So they're at a turnover of 63 million. That's gone up to 170 million in quite a short space of time, mainly down to the quality and reliability of delivering complex projects at scale. They've reached out to Zootech to understand if we could potentially improve their current internal delivery process with the client in mind.
And can you delve a bit deeper into the specific problem we were trying to solve for them?
Yeah, so they've been dealing with complex handovers across multiple projects, relying heavily on manual processes that are creating bottlenecks during the late stages of projects. This can lead to site teams spending unwanted time chasing out trade information, along with manual tracking, what information has been received and what's to be expected to be received. Templates and workflows were also inconsistent project to project, which is something common across most tier 1, tier 2 contractors, given projects spanning across multiple regions and different project teams. It's made it difficult for them to maintain a standard approach to meeting clients' expectation for structured digital information, as you'll have multiple different regions working in separate ways, leading to an inconsistent handover for the client.
Great. And how did we address these challenges, and how did we bring the team on board with this?
Yeah, so we introduced a cloud-based platform that automated the subcontractor follow-ups, standardized their O&M template across all their projects, so they have one single source of truth across all their different projects, and provided dashboard for real-time visibility into the information collation with the trades. By taking ownership of document collation and uploading, we eliminated all the bottlenecks they were seeing towards the back end of a project, freeing up internal teams from manual chasing and allowing us to just organize their information into a structured format. This result essentially led to them having accurate, compliant and on-time handover information, strengthening their current relationships with their end clients.
Brilliant. And Carolina, to wrap this section up, were there any constraints or limitations that you had to work with this contractor?
Well, with this and in cases like this, always the main constraint and the main limitation is to persuade the supply chain to provide information that they already have, to provide it in the way we need it, when we need it. That's kind of the main limitation. So it's an educational piece, I will say. I'm proud to say that we have influenced in a positive way our supply chain, and that also has an impact overall in the construction industry, as they already know how to provide key information for the O&Ms that we basically deliver here.
And I guess we streamlined the handover process. What was involved in that?
Kickoff meeting is key. That's the first step that we have in this process, where we have a handover success manager. This is our key point of contact for our clients, where we talk about when information needs to be ready, kind of setting those key milestones throughout the entire process. Then we have, internally, we have 2 support teams. What happens here is that they are basically the responsible to engage that supply chain. They contact them via phone, they follow up with emails, we chase. We chase when we need to. And then from there, we just start processing information. We upload information, we let our clients know via our dashboards what needs review. Once we have received comments or we have received approval, then we kind of close our packages. And it sounds very easy, but yeah, it could be at times time consuming. And as I said, influencing the trade contractors to provide information that they have is something that is key for us.
And I guess another thing that's pretty key is actually customer satisfaction. So what were the key things that, changed in their process that delivered that satisfaction?
Transparency, I would say, is key for our clients. They need to know what we have received and what we haven't received. For them, it's important to know when they need to step in. Yes, we are managing a massive risk, which is collecting this handover documentation on time, but they also want to know when they need to help or when they need to start applying some pressure on trade contractors. Platform engagement is also key, that they can navigate it. We provide training. We constantly check on them if they are finding it useful, if there is anything that they need from us. So we need to make sure that SUTEC is our main tool to communicate when we are not in a face-to-face environment, via reports, automated reports, via meetings, via phone calls. So yeah. Something that I also say when it comes to transparency is to make sure that things get done when we promise they will get done. That's something, is our motto, and we make sure that our clients always get that level of commitment. And yeah, that's why client satisfaction is quite high at the moment.
Great, that's good to hear. Well, thank you guys for sharing those scenarios. So insightful and valuable. I think, the best way to bring some of this to life is actually share a live demo. But before we go into that, we do have our third poll, and that should be live now for all of you, if you're happy all to share your insight. And the question is, what tools do you mainly rely on to manage handover information? So if you could submit your votes, we can see. So I'm seeing still a lot of usage of Excel trackers. So, in line with some of the scenarios we've heard today. Shared folders, SharePoint, Teams, Dropbox. Those seem to be systems that are still widely in use, despite there being purpose-built solutions out there. And then some of you are obviously using dedicated digital handover solutions, hoping that's, ours. And then using email chains and CDEs. So a variety of different systems and tools being used still. Over to you, Josh, to share a bit more of the experience of how our platform works. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Maria. Let me share my screen. Can you see that okay? Yeah. So I'll just take you to the demo section that we've got of the platform to give you a rough idea of what an average project looks like with us, Zootech. While that loads, bit of context, bit of background on the platform. It's live, so you have access right the way up to PC, and a 4-week period post PC, a grace period for any late submissions and your as-builts, certain certs that follow after that PC date. It's an unlimited user model. It's unlimited in terms of the amount of licenses that you can have, data that you can access. With those licenses, we can set provisions. So if you wanted to open it up to the sort of client team, consultant, employer's agent, we can set provisions and grant certain accesses. It's a read-only platform. So we manage, obviously, the responsibility of sourcing, chasing, collating, reviewing the information, but also uploading information onto the platform. I suppose we do this for a number of reasons. By us doing it, we've got plenty of practice. We've got experienced guys in the team that do this day in, day out. Very familiar with the platform. They know exactly where documents and certs, drawings need to go under what folder, what tab, what header. Making it more consistent, making it easier to navigate. And probably, no doubt, yourself, the contractors, will have, and subcontractors, a number of other platforms to use. So introducing another one could be a bit of a pain, an extra bit of training that's necessary to see how it's uploaded. And probably lastly, and most importantly, by us doing the QA checks and uploading the information on the platform, we wouldn't essentially get a data dump from a subcontractor that's allowed access to the platform, where they might have submitted 100 documents and only 20 might be required for the project. So we manage that process of uploading. So like I said, this is what you can expect to see. In terms of navigating your way around the platform, getting from A to B, searching for a document, for instance, there's 2 ways to go about it. We've got a folder structure here, top left, and an interactive digital display, a dashboard, center stage. In terms of the content of the information, both contain exactly the same. Some of our clients find something a little bit more structured with the folders. Some find it easier to navigate with the dashboard. And I'll just take you through a few of these tabs that might prove relevant on a project. Top left, we've got the document register. Does what it says on the tin. That gives you a list of every single document on the project. Everything is filterable. So we've got filters across every single one of these tabs. You could see where information's where it hasn't been received, information that's been at final, information that's at draft or D1. Anything marked up as draft or D1 would be information sat with the contractor to review. Anything marked up as draft or D2 would be information sat with the client or consultant to review. So you can break the information down in accordance with the status, when it was reviewed, the title, what sub-project it relates to. So to align with recommended best practice, if you're delivering a multi-resi project, If there's multiple blocks, tenure splits, specifications, we would typically split that information on a per block or per specification type, so you can split the information that way. You can export the information into Excel, into PDFs, and it's got searchable functionality alongside that as well. In terms of the presentation, this is how it typically looks on an average project. So we've got, let me just open up that. So we've got first building, demo building, we've got here a CDM compliant health and safety file. We've got your O&Ms broken down into your fabric packages. We then break down your services in accordance with your systems, mechanical, electrical lifts, general building information, anything like EPC certs, PC certs will be included here, and any additional deliverables above and beyond your O&Ms and health and safety, whether that be a logbook, a user guide that we would offer as well, resi manuals, tenant packs, and so on. Then if I bring you to the dashboard, which is a little bit more interactive, it's got the charts and graphs as well to report progress. On the landing page, we've got the overall project status. Now, Carol alluded to it before. We would set placeholders on the platform of when we expect information based on your construction program and directory. Using those two pieces of information, we set an expectation of what's coming in. That gives us the amber line against what has actually been received in green. So at any given time, you can log into the platform and see where we're up to in accordance with what's expected. Mentioned before, everything's filterable. So you can click on anything complete by package, and it'll filter the information down to the bottom half of the dashboard. We've got filters along the side that run across all tabs. Mentioned before, if you wanted to filter the information between a block or site-wide information, you can filter the information on a package, company, and status. If we have a look at an example of what it looks like at final, an O&M, we'll use as an example. So if I type in operations, that will give us the document, the O&M, we can see the type. We'll click on the URL. That'll take us to a separate tab. On that tab, once it loads, you'll see all the metadata tagging that we attach to every single document. So that's something that our project team will do. So they will note the document number, title, type, status of every single document. In effect, it makes that a bit easier to navigate and to search for, having that metadata running in the background. And if you scroll down to the bottom, you'll have that attached completed cladding O&M, should be when it loads. And we spoke about it before, the structured templates. This is something that we typically roll out across nearly all of our projects, certainly the majority of the ones that I've come across. This is the format and the structure that it looks like, and it's linked as well. So if you needed quick and easy access, you've opened up the O&M manual, you're within the cladding manual, and you needed access to the drawings or the schedules, go into the table of contents, click on drawings, and it'll take you directly to that page. Just saves a bit of time not having to go through pages and pages of information. Excellent. That. The next tab along is the actions required. So this is the high-level reporting on a package progress, if you like. On the first one, we can see escalations required. So we're a fully managed service where we'll do a lot of the chasing, sourcing, collating off the back of the information received by yourselves, the contractors. So using the directory, we will predominantly phone, but with email support, chase those subcontractors in line with the construction program. If it gets to a point where we haven't heard anything back from that particular subcontractor, we've chased umpteen times, no response, we in effect would name and shame them, put them on the platform, escalate that to yourself to say, listen, this is the sub project, the package that it is, the company name, when it was overdue by, we haven't had a response. Can you give them a bit of a nudge and prevent any sort of hold-ups? If we scroll down, we've got packages that are set at draft greater than 30 days. Again, there might be a risk of the subcontractor sort of leaving site. We would want to get that action sooner rather than later. Packages that draft less than 30 days gives you a breakdown of where the information is sat, who with. So draft 1, mentioned before, was with the contractor yourselves. Draft 2, consultant or client. Items that haven't been received and what's been returned to the subcontractor more than 5 times. So just a bit of background on this. This is where we receive a template from a subcontractor. We've made comments. We've sent it back to them for them to update and validate that, and we've repeated that process 5 times. So on top of that, combined with that, obviously you've got live access to the platform. We'd then share a progress report. So this is a progress report that goes out bi-monthly, twice a month to the project team. Gives you a breakdown of, where we're currently up to. There's a status tracker. Are we on track? What we're doing as a percentage in terms of progress. Who's looking after your project here at Zootech, and any sort of contact information. Awaiting customer reviews for over 2 weeks. We've listed out the subcontractors, the packages. Got a bit of an audit trail as well. So the number of calls, emails sent, who we've contacted. Bit more information, background information on the project, sort of scope, timelines, what's agreed, any deliverables. And further down, we've got some more sort of granular detail, if you like. So this is where we would capture the conversations that we're having with your subcontractors, where we've agreed a time frame of when we need the information back, where we've offered any sort of training, for instance. We'll capture that and share that with yourself, so you've got complete visibility of essentially what we're doing throughout the construction program. The last two slides, bear with 2 secs. Here we go. Look at the information, breaks the information and the data on a providers basis and a document type basis. Both look fairly similar, but if we have a look at the providers tab first, we've got an indication over the number of documents expected, what's at final, what's been received, what's outstanding. And we've got a breakdown of the subcontractors, your supply chain, the number of documents that they're due to submit against what's outstanding. And like I mentioned before, everything is filterable. So if, for instance, we've got maker ventilation, they're due to submit 55 documents. Of the 55, 24 outstanding. You click on that 24 and it'll take you to the left-hand side pane. And there you can drill into the information in finer detail. And then lastly, we've got the documents type tab, very similar to the providers. It just looks at the information on a document type basis. So this is where you've got all your drawings, your certs, descriptions, for instance. If you wanted access to fire certs for your site-wide phase, for instance, one way of navigating your way around the platform is to click on site-wide. Then maybe go into the electrical package. We're looking for a cert here. And if we were to type in anything fire related with the metadata, it'll pull that information up. Again, saves a lot of time, not having to scroll through sort of big manuals. A couple of clicks and it should take you directly to that document that you've requested that you're after. And that's it. Whistle stop tour of the platform there.
Thank you, Josh. And for those of you that hadn't seen kind of the live demo or the live environment before, I hope that's given you a kind of a bit of a context of how it works and what you can get out of it. So thank you, Josh. That was really helpful to see. So we have another poll before we move on to kind of our last section of this webinar around our top 10 tips from what we've hear and see from our customers today. And that poll should be live again. And the question is, where do you feel the biggest risk sits in your current handover approach? So again, if you can put your votes in, some of you are coming, most of you actually are coming back and saying around the compliance, regulatory expectations, obviously client expectations and satisfaction. I mean, happy customer means hopefully repeat business. So that is a big factor that comes into play. And then again, data quality and aftercare, which obviously came up in the first poll as well. So thank you, everyone. So as I said, we're going to move on to the last part of our webinar now, and I'll hand back to all three. So Cam, Josh and Carolina to talk through our top 10 tips. And as I say, these have been brought together from the things that we hear, see, and know from the contractors that we work with. So we've pulled these together so that we can hopefully help you have more of a seamless handover management experience. So I think over to you, Cam, is it first?
Yeah, thanks. So the first tip that we have is making sure that we're starting early. So handover is typically treated as a last minute task, but really in reality, the earlier you start, the smoother your project closeout is going to be. Handover isn't just a box to tick at the end of the project. It's a process that should run in parallel with the design and construction phase. If you wait until the last month on site, you're almost guaranteed to face a scramble with missing documentation and aftercare issues with the client. From day one, put clear handover activities into your project program, define requirements, templates, and responsibilities as part of the trades packages. This sets expectations right from the start for everyone, including your team, supply chain, and the client. You should aim to have around 60% of your handover information drafted 6 months before practical completion. Don't wait for the big push at the end. Instead, collate O&M manuals, product data, and certificates incrementally along the project program. Best practice we find is to chase in line with the project program while the trades are on site and engage. Typically, if it's left late, trades might have left site already and moved on to another site, making it even more difficult to receive final handover information. Remember, the first rule of a smooth construction handover is simple: start early and keep going. Make handover a continuous process, not just a one-off event, and you'll turn the project closeout from risk into reassurance for the client. The next thing you need to start thinking about is setting your supply chain up for success. You don't need to define, you do need to define your expectations early on in the process. Don't leave handover requirements vague. Instead of just asking for O&M manuals at PC, be specific to exactly what each subcontractor must deliver and in what format and by which date. This provides clarity to the trades and reduce any reworks that may occur later on in the project. Make sure your procurement documents spell out handover expectations, share trade-specific templates and checklists so the subcontractors know precisely what's required for their packages. Don't wait until the end to check documentation. Making sure that we're tracking submissions from completeness and consistency as the project is progressing. Using digital tools and dashboards to make each trade status visible so you can spot and address any issues as early as possible. By making documentation a clear part of each subcontractor's package and tracking it visibly, you simplify chasing, encourage timely delivery from the trades, and ensure everything and everyone understands their responsibilities. The next tip that we have is establishing consistent templates. First step is to create a handover template that defines the overall structure of your project. This should include sections, folder hierarchy, required documents, and naming conventions. Consistency here ensures handover packages are easy to navigate and meet the client's expectations. This is something which is set up in Zootech in our initial kickoff meeting with our delivery team. So for each trade and subcontractor, outline exactly which documentations are required at PC, such as the project data sheet, commissioning certificates, warranties, and maintenance schedules. These checklists make requirements tangible and reduce any risk of missing information at PC. We then want to validate submissions in real time. As documents are submitted, we can validate them against the template and our checklists. This turns a load of files and folders into a consistent client-ready digital O&M manual set rather than just an ad hoc bundle of PDFs that are sent over to the client. You can leverage different digital platforms like Zootech to automate the collation, validation, and packaging of handover information. Not only saves time, but also ensures every project follows the same high standard. And then moving on to aligning outputs with site geography. Floors and individual units. If we hand over documents grouped by contractors' packages, it's typically a nightmare for the client to find any information, and they'll just be running completely blind, trying to look for potentially a fire certificate, for example, on a different block. That's why it's important to align our handover output with the site's geography early on. So we need to agree on what information will be structured, i.e., is it by block, phase, tenured, or asset type, not just by trade. That way, when the teams are scrambling around for information or a warranty for a specific flat, they can find that information in seconds, not hours. Tagging documents by location and asset type is a game changer for asset teams. It means we're not just dumping a pile of files for the client, we're giving them a handover pack that's usable from day one, and will reduce essentially the amount of aftercare issues that you may have with the client post PC. So if you want your handover to essentially make your life easier for the client and leave a good impression, always think about how they'll be using the information. Align your outputs with the way the building will be managed, not just how it was built. It's a small shift, but it makes a massive difference to the process.
Thank you, Cam. And then over to you, Carolina. And you're on mute as well. Sorry.
Thank you, Maria. So the next tip is establish clear ownership. What this means is that it is recommended to appoint a dedicated package manager to drive accountability and progress. It's important for us to know who is responsible of doing what, client side, clear roles, clear responsibilities, knowing those key points of escalation when we need to use them, but also to make sure that all the handover documentation is reviewed on time. So what we always recommend is to assign a sole responsibility for the handover process, track progress using our reports. Closer to PC, these reports start being sent more often. It could be weekly, it could be every 2 weeks or weekly. So we encourage our clients to make use of these tools. And make sure that there are reminders so they know that they need to go check SUTEC, find by status, as just show us information that is pending the review, or also information that we have requested and trade contractors have not provided. The next step, define approval process. So this is something that we define in our kickoff meetings. We establish those key milestones. Again, who is responsible of doing what, but when. So we need to understand how the review process is going to work on site. We submit all documentation, but we also want to make sure that when we chase those approvals, we are chasing the right person and we are chasing them at the right time. And obviously, as projects grow in complexity, we might have more people involved in the review process. So we need to know who the reviewers are. We have different stages. So the first review is always the SUTEC review, where we check all the basics based on the package expectation list. The content of the document needs to be reviewed by package managers, by main approvers, client side, construction side, and there might be third party reviewing this documentation for final approval. We need to know who these parties are. And the next step, agree the final output early. So our clients need to know what they are going to receive when the project ends. It's important that they see this early to align on expectations also, and to understand how the handover documentation is going to be presented at completion. So it's important to discuss any final deliverables, if they need hard copies. It's crazy, but we still have clients that require hard copies. So we need to know this. We need to understand how this needs to be provided, any final deliverables in the sense of how the information needs to be presented. So it could be the offline version of our platform. If there are any other additional requirements, we need to know early enough to make sure that this is not going to create a bottleneck at the end. And of course, to align on any regulation and compliance, so there are no surprises at the end. So this is important, this final output, understand it to avoid surprises.
Thank you, Carolina. So for our final 3 tips, I'm going to hand over to you, Josh. Thank you.
Cheers, Maria. So number 8, why is it important to provide early visibility? I mean, commonly, there's multiple stakeholders that contribute to O&M manuals. Providing early visibility will give the client team and project team access, as well as increasing engagement, which helps coordinate inputs and resolves any gaps of information prior to handover. Also, ultimately, improves customer and client satisfaction. So providing regular updates and live status builds trust and accountability. Dashboards and progress reports allow stakeholders to flag issues early, resolve them promptly, and maintain transparency throughout the project lifecycle. Number 9, don't rely on CDEs alone. So with CDEs, you get a loss of usability and context. Often when documents are exported from a CDE, that important metadata, relationships and context are stripped away. The result is a mountain of disconnected documents that are difficult to navigate, search, or even trust. I mean, this undermines the value of the information and makes it hard for facility management teams to find what they actually need. Also, the end users need to be able to intuitively navigate, search, retrieve that information. A specialist digital handover platform like Zootech will be able to preserve that metadata and provide structured outputs like your O&Ms, find emergency files, asset registers, making information accessible and usable. Number 10, so it's important to replace Excel trackers with dashboards, maybe for a number of reasons. Manual entry and errors. So with Excel, one wrong formula or misplaced row can compromise the entire O&M package, risking data integrity and project outcomes. There's no audit trail, so there's no clear record of who changed what and when, making accountability and compliance quite challenging. Obviously, with the dashboards, every change is logged, making accountability and compliance clear and straightforward. And there's a lack of collaboration. Excel doesn't support real-time collaboration or visibility across teams, making it quite difficult to coordination, for instance.
Thank you, Josh, and thanks to all of you for going through those. I think some kind of really valuable insights into how to really get your handover management processes into a better place. We are closing the call shortly, so we are open for questions. So do add those to the questions tab or the chatbot tab, and we can address them. And while you're doing that, we can move on to our final poll of the day, which should be open as well. So if you're happy to submit your final insights and votes, that would be great. And that poll is what best describes your organization's priority for improving handover in the next 12 months. So if you're happy to put your votes in, I can see some of you are putting your votes in already. So top is running a pilot on selected projects, and secondly, rolling out new enterprise processes standardization. So it'd be great to see kind of what your active plans are going forward, if any. And on that note, I will go to questions, given that we are nearly at the top of the hour. And we have had one question in, and this is probably one for you actually, Cam, and that is, do you work with smaller contractors as well as the larger ones who complete with just a couple of projects a year, and is the process the same?
Yeah, it's a good question. The process is essentially exactly the same as it would be for a larger contractor, depending on what the requirements are. Typically, when we do see smaller contractors reaching out to ourselves here at Zootech, there tends to be a lack of understanding of what the requirements are, and they're looking for essentially an expert to run through and help reassure them to understand what the client exactly needs at PC. So we're here to help, whether it's a case of giving back time to the site team or just simply trying to understand what the requirements are for the client moving forwards.
Brilliant, thank you, Cam. And one for you, probably Carolina. I think we're all familiar actually with projects overrunning, delays, changes along the way. Do we have a process for when a project is extended or there is changes, and how do we deal with that? Sorry, Caroline, you're on mute again. Apology.
All right. I would say the progress meetings are key. So it's inevitable to think that there are not going to be changes. There are always changes. But something that we know are the type of changes that we are going to have and how they impact on site. So for us, it's important to know when those changes are happening and how they are going to impact the trade contractors, so we can engage quickly with them. Maybe they won't be at the stage that they can provide a good draft, but they will be able to start populating the template. That's something that we do to manage those delays. It's important that the construction teams let us know these changes as soon as they know that they are going to happen. That's more than a process, is creating that awareness. so we can also mitigate the impact of those delays through the supply chain and how the information is going to be provided and by when. When it comes to extensions, the same, we just need to understand what trade contractors are going to be impacted, so we don't chase for information that is not going to be available. And we need to know how long the project is going to be extended for. That's basically what we need to know.
Brilliant. Thank you, Carolina. And we do have one final question in. I'll probably shoot this over to you, Cam, for this final one. So the question is, post-PC, our teams often face callbacks. What role should external partners play in providing O&M training and defect resolution during the DLP?
Yeah, so it's a good question. So the contractors team will get training from the initial kickoff, along with the project management meetings throughout, so to make sure that we're holding their hand through the process. When it comes to the client, a week before PC, if agreed to by the contractor, we will reach out to the client to give them training on how to find information on the platform, to essentially just make sure that there isn't any aftercare issues once we reach PC.
Brilliant, thank you. So I think that is the final questions for today. If you do have questions after the call, feel free to send them through to our info@zootech.com email address, and we can address them directly offline with you. And if you do have any queries or want to follow up with one of the team, please just reach out anytime. I'd like to thank our speakers today, Cam, Carolina, and Josh, for running through all that with us, running through the scenarios and the top 10 tips. And I'd like to thank all of you for joining. So thanks for coming along and listening. And again, if you do have any questions post-call, do reach out. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.